One of the greatest barriers to living a meaningful life is the constant need for approval from other people. From the moment we are young, we begin learning that acceptance often comes from meeting expectations. We are praised when we behave a certain way, rewarded when we fit in, and encouraged to avoid actions that might lead to criticism or rejection. Over time, many people begin to measure their worth by the opinions of those around them. Without realizing it, they hand over control of their happiness to people who will never fully understand their dreams, values, or purpose. Your life is not meant to become a collection of decisions based on someone else's approval. Every person has different expectations, different beliefs, and different definitions of success. If you spend your entire life trying to satisfy everyone, you will eventually discover that it is impossible. Someone will always disagree with your choices. Someone will always believe you should have taken a different path. Someone will always have an opinion about how you should live. The question is not whether people will judge you. The question is whether you will allow those judgments to determine the direction of your life. Many people postpone their dreams because they fear disappointing others. They avoid starting businesses because friends might think they are unrealistic. They remain in careers they no longer enjoy because society considers them successful. They stay silent instead of expressing their ideas because they fear criticism. They refuse to pursue passions because they worry about being misunderstood. Every decision becomes filtered through one exhausting question. What will people think? The problem with living this way is that approval constantly changes. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. Public opinion is unstable because it is based on preferences, emotions, circumstances, and personal perspectives that are beyond your control. If your confidence depends entirely on external validation, your emotional well-being becomes equally unstable. You rise with compliments and fall with criticism. You celebrate when people approve and doubt yourself when they do not. Real freedom begins when you recognize that your identity cannot be built on opinions that change from person to person. Your value does not increase because someone admires you, and it does not decrease because someone disagrees with you. Your character, integrity, and principles matter far more than temporary approval. When you understand this, you stop chasing acceptance and begin living according to your values instead. This does not mean ignoring every opinion. Wise people remain open to feedback because constructive criticism helps them improve. There is a difference, however, between learning from advice and becoming controlled by approval. Advice provides information. Approval seeks permission. Healthy growth comes from listening thoughtfully while still taking responsibility for your own decisions. The final direction of your life cannot be determined by the changing expectations of everyone around you. Many of the people you admire achieve success only after facing criticism. Innovators, leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and changemakers often encountered doubt before they received recognition. Their ideas challenged conventional thinking, and many people initially misunderstood them. If they had allowed public opinion to stop them, their greatest contributions would never have existed. History repeatedly shows that meaningful progress often begins with someone willing to act despite disapproval. One reason approval feels so powerful is because human beings naturally desire connection and belonging. We want to be accepted by family, friends, coworkers, and society. There is nothing wrong with wanting healthy relationships. The danger appears when belonging becomes more important than authenticity. If acceptance requires pretending to be someone you are not, the relationship comes at the cost of your identity. You may gain approval while slowly losing yourself. Authenticity requires courage because it invites disagreement. The moment you begin expressing your genuine beliefs, pursuing your own goals, or setting healthy boundaries, some people will support you while others will question your decisions. This is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are no longer allowing your life to be controlled by universal approval, something that has never existed and never will. Every meaningful decision involves choosing which voice deserves the greatest influence. The opinions of others may provide perspective, but they should never replace your own conscience, values, and purpose. When you consistently seek approval before taking action, you quietly surrender ownership of your future. Instead of creating the life you truly want, you begin creating the life that receives the fewest objections from everyone else. There comes a moment when every person must decide whether they will continue performing for the expectations of others or begin living according to their deepest convictions. That choice shapes every relationship, every opportunity, every dream, and every chapter that follows. Your life is far too valuable to become a reflection of someone else's approval instead of an expression of who you truly are. Every time you allow someone else's opinion to control your decisions, you give away a piece of your personal power. It rarely happens all at once. Instead, it happens through small choices made over time. You stay quiet when you have something meaningful to say because you fear being judged. You say yes when you want to say no because you do not want to disappoint anyone. You hide your ambitions because you worry they might sound unrealistic. You change your personality to fit into different groups, hoping acceptance will bring peace. Gradually, your life becomes less about who you truly are and more about who other people expect you to be. Personal power is not about controlling others. It is about having the courage to control your own choices, your own mindset, and your own direction. It comes from recognizing that while you cannot control what people think, you can always choose how you respond. The moment you stop handing your emotional well-being to the opinions of others is the moment you begin reclaiming your freedom. Many people mistakenly believe that other people's approval gives them confidence. In reality, confidence that depends on approval is temporary because it exists only as long as people continue to praise you. The moment criticism appears, that confidence disappears. True confidence is built differently. It grows when you consistently keep promises to yourself, make decisions based on your values, and continue moving forward even when others disagree. Think about how often fear of judgment influences everyday decisions. Someone wants to change careers but stays where they are because friends may question the decision. Another person dreams of starting a business but never begins because family members think it is too risky. Someone else wants to express a creative talent but keeps it hidden because they fear negative comments. In each of these situations, the greatest obstacle is not a lack of ability. It is the decision to allow outside opinions to hold greater authority than inner conviction. The truth is that every time you let fear make your decisions, you strengthen that fear. Every time you choose courage instead, you strengthen yourself. Confidence is not built by avoiding uncomfortable situations. It is built by repeatedly proving to yourself that you can survive them. The first time you speak honestly, set a boundary, or pursue a goal despite criticism, it may feel frightening. The second time becomes easier. Eventually, what once seemed impossible becomes natural because you have developed trust in your own judgment. Another way people give away their power is by constantly seeking permission. They wait for someone to tell them they are ready, talented enough, experienced enough, or worthy enough before taking action. They hope that approval from a mentor, a parent, a friend, or society will finally remove their doubts. Yet no amount of outside permission can replace self-belief. Waiting for permission often becomes another way of postponing responsibility for your own life. Your power also grows when you accept that not everyone will understand your journey. Every person sees the world through their own experiences, fears, and beliefs. Someone who has never pursued a dream may struggle to understand why you are willing to take risks. Someone who values security above all else may discourage change, even when change is exactly what you need. Their opinions are shaped by their perspective, not by your potential. There is an important difference between respecting people and surrendering to them. Respect means listening with an open mind and treating others with kindness. Surrender means allowing their opinions to become more important than your own purpose. Healthy relationships encourage growth and honesty. They do not require you to abandon your identity to maintain acceptance. Many of the limitations people carry are not real limitations at all. They are stories repeated so often that they begin to feel like facts. People will laugh at me. No one will support me. I have to make everyone happy. These thoughts often remain untested because fear prevents action. When you finally challenge them, you discover that many were never true to begin with. Some people may criticize you, but many will admire your courage. Others may simply be too focused on their own lives to pay much attention at all. Reclaiming your power also means taking full responsibility for your choices. It is easier to blame criticism, circumstances, or other people's expectations than to admit that fear influenced your decisions. Responsibility is uncomfortable because it removes excuses, but it also creates freedom. The moment you accept that your future is shaped primarily by the decisions you make, you stop waiting for approval and start creating opportunities. Every decision either strengthens your independence or increases your dependence on outside validation. Every honest conversation, every healthy boundary, every courageous action, and every step taken toward your goals reminds you that your life belongs to you. Your voice becomes stronger because it is no longer competing with every opinion around you. Your confidence becomes steadier because it is rooted in self-respect rather than applause. Your direction becomes clearer because it is guided by your values instead of the expectations of others. That is how personal power is reclaimed, one courageous decision at a time. One of the most surprising truths about human nature is this: people think about you far less than you imagine. Yet countless individuals spend years worrying about what others might say, how they might react, or whether they might judge every decision they make. Entire dreams are postponed because of conversations that never happen. Opportunities are ignored because of criticism that exists only in the imagination. The fear of being judged often becomes much greater than the reality of being judged. This happens because the human mind naturally places itself at the center of its own experience. Psychologists sometimes refer to this tendency as the spotlight effect. We feel as though everyone is paying close attention to our appearance, our mistakes, our words, and our choices, when in reality most people are occupied with their own concerns. They are thinking about their own careers, relationships, responsibilities, insecurities, and future. Just as you spend most of your day thinking about your own life, other people spend most of their day thinking about theirs. Think about the last time you saw someone make a small mistake in public. Perhaps they stumbled while walking, forgot a word during a presentation, or wore something unusual. You probably noticed it briefly and then moved on with your day. Now think about one of your own embarrassing moments. Chances are you remember it in great detail because your mind replayed it repeatedly. The event felt enormous to you because it happened in your own story, while to everyone else it was simply a passing moment. Many people build invisible prisons based on imagined opinions. They avoid speaking in meetings because they fear sounding unintelligent. They hesitate to post their ideas online because someone might disagree. They refuse to wear clothes they genuinely like because they worry about being noticed. They never ask questions because they fear appearing inexperienced. In each case, the decision is driven by an exaggerated belief that everyone is closely observing and evaluating them. The reality is much different. Most people are too busy managing their own lives to analyze yours. They have bills to pay, deadlines to meet, families to care for, dreams to pursue, and personal challenges to overcome. Their attention is divided among countless responsibilities. Even if someone notices your decision, they are unlikely to spend much time thinking about it because their own concerns quickly reclaim their focus. This understanding can be incredibly freeing. When you realize that you are not the center of everyone else's attention, you gain permission to stop performing for an audience that barely exists. You become more willing to express your ideas, take healthy risks, and pursue meaningful goals because you understand that the fear of judgment has been greatly exaggerated by your own mind. Of course, some people will criticize you. That is part of life. No matter what choices you make, there will always be individuals who disagree with them. If you succeed, some may call you lucky. If you fail, others may question your abilities. If you stay the same, someone will say you lack ambition. If you change, someone else will accuse you of changing too much. Criticism is unavoidable because people interpret the world through their own experiences, beliefs, and preferences. The important lesson is recognizing the difference between temporary opinions and lasting consequences. Other people's judgments usually last only moments. The consequences of abandoning your dreams because of those judgments can last a lifetime. Many people reach the end of their lives carrying regret, not because they were criticized, but because they allowed the possibility of criticism to prevent them from becoming who they wanted to be. Another reason people overestimate how much others think about them is because social media creates the illusion of constant observation. Every post, comment, and photograph seems open to public evaluation. While online feedback can feel intense, even their people's attention moves quickly. Today's trending conversation is forgotten tomorrow. The internet constantly shifts from one topic to another. Most people are scrolling rapidly, focused on entertainment or their own interests rather than carefully analyzing someone else's life. Understanding this reality encourages healthier confidence. Confidence does not come from convincing everyone to approve of you. It comes from recognizing that universal approval is neither possible nor necessary. You stop measuring your value by the number of people who notice you or agree with your choices. Instead, you begin measuring your life by whether your actions align with your values and your purpose. When you let go of the belief that everyone is constantly watching, your energy returns to where it belongs. Instead of rehearsing imaginary conversations or defending yourself against imagined criticism, you begin investing that energy into learning, creating, building relationships, improving your skills, and pursuing meaningful goals. Your attention shifts from managing perceptions to making progress. The remarkable truth is that most of the freedom people are searching for already exists. It has simply been hidden behind the illusion that everyone is paying attention. Once you understand that people are primarily occupied with their own lives, you stop allowing imagined audiences to control your real decisions. You begin living with greater authenticity because your choices are no longer directed by fear of observation, but by the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your life does not need constant approval to have lasting value. Many people believe confidence comes from success, praise, or recognition. They think that once enough people admire them, approve of them, or celebrate their achievements, they will finally feel secure in themselves. This belief is understandable because the world often rewards external accomplishments. Compliments make us feel good. Awards provide validation. Social approval creates a temporary sense of belonging. Yet these sources of confidence are fragile because they depend on circumstances that are constantly changing. The kind of confidence that lasts is built on something much deeper. It begins with self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is the willingness to recognize your strengths without arrogance and your weaknesses without shame. It means understanding that your value as a person is not determined by perfection. Every individual has flaws, limitations, fears, and insecurities. The difference is that confident people do not spend their lives pretending those imperfections do not exist. They acknowledge them honestly while refusing to let them define their identity. Many people spend years trying to become someone they think others will admire. They adjust their personality depending on who they are with. They hide opinions to avoid conflict. They suppress interest because they fear being misunderstood. They compare themselves constantly to people who appear more successful, attractive, intelligent, or talented. Over time, you become exhausted because maintaining a version of yourself that is designed for approval requires endless effort. The problem with comparison is that it creates impossible standards. There will always be someone who earns more money, possesses greater talent, has more experience, or receives more recognition. If confidence depends on being better than everyone else, confidence will always remain out of reach. Someone else will eventually achieve something greater, leaving you questioning your own worth once again. Self-acceptance changes the foundation of confidence. Instead of asking whether you are better than someone else, you begin asking whether you are becoming a better version of yourself. Growth replaces comparison. Progress replaces perfection. You measure success by your willingness to improve rather than by your ability to outperform everyone around you. Accepting yourself does not mean becoming satisfied with mediocrity. It does not mean refusing to grow or ignoring areas where improvement is needed. It means separating your identity from your performance. You can acknowledge mistakes without believing you are a failure. You can recognize weaknesses without believing you are worthless. You can pursue excellence without believing perfection is required before you deserve respect. Many people confuse self-acceptance with self-confidence, but the two are closely connected. Confidence grows naturally when you stop fighting against who you are. Imagine carrying a heavy mask every day, constantly worrying that someone might discover your imperfections. That emotional burden drains energy that could otherwise be invested in learning, creating, leading, or building meaningful relationships. The moment you remove the mask, you gain freedom. You no longer waste time pretending to be someone you are not. Another obstacle to self-acceptance is the habit of defining yourself by past mistakes. Many people continue punishing themselves for decisions they made years ago. They replay failures repeatedly, believing those moments permanently describe their character. The truth is that mistakes are events, not identities. A poor decision may reveal something that needs to change, but it does not determine your worth. Every person has chapters they would rewrite if given the opportunity. Growth begins when you learn from those experiences instead of becoming trapped by them. Self-acceptance also requires acknowledging emotions instead of hiding them. Society often encourages people to appear strong by pretending they never feel fear, doubt, disappointment, or sadness. Real strength, however, comes from facing emotions honestly rather than denying they exist. Accepting your humanity allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Emotional awareness becomes a source of wisdom rather than weakness. The people you surround yourself with also influence your ability to accept yourself. Healthy relationships encourage authenticity. They create space where honesty is valued more than perfection. They challenge you to grow while reminding you that your worth does not disappear when you struggle. Toxic environments, on the other hand, often reward performance while ignoring character, making self-acceptance much more difficult. Confidence built on self-acceptance becomes remarkably stable because it is no longer dependent on constant applause. Compliments are appreciated but not required. The criticism is considered without becoming devastating. Success becomes enjoyable without becoming your identity. Failure becomes educational instead of destructive. You remain grounded because your sense of worth comes from within rather than from the unpredictable opinions of other people. When you truly accept yourself, you stop wasting energy trying to earn permission to exist exactly as you are. You become more willing to speak honestly, pursue meaningful goals, set healthy boundaries, and take courageous risks because your identity is no longer controlled by external validation. Confidence becomes less about convincing others that you deserve respect and more about quietly recognizing that your value has always existed, independent of achievements, comparison, approval, or perfection. One of the greatest tragedies in life is not rejection. It is regret. Rejection is temporary. It may hurt for a moment, a day, or even a season, but regret has a way of following people for years. It quietly appears in moments of reflection, asking painful questions about the opportunities that were never taken, the words that were never spoken, and the dreams that were abandoned because fear seemed stronger than courage. Many people spend their lives trying to avoid rejection, only to discover that they have collected something far heavier, lifelong regret. Fear of rejection is deeply rooted in human nature. From an early age, we seek acceptance from family, friends, classmates, and society. We naturally want to belong because connection has always been an important part of human survival. As we grow older, this desire often expands into every area of life. We fear rejection in relationships, careers, business, leadership, and even personal expression. We begin making decisions based not on what we truly want, but on what feels safest. The problem is that safety often comes with an invisible cost. Every time you choose silence instead of honesty, comfort instead of growth, or approval instead of authenticity, you protect yourself from temporary discomfort while moving closer to long-term regret. The opportunity disappears, but the question remains. What if I had tried? That question can stay with a person for decades because it has no clear answer. Rejection, on the other hand, provides certainty. It may close one door, but it also frees you to move toward another. A rejected job application tells you to keep searching. A failed business teaches lessons that improve your next attempt. A relationship that does not work reveals important truths about compatibility, communication, and personal growth. Rejection provides information. Regret provides only imagination. Many people assume rejection is proof that they are not good enough. In reality, rejection often has very little to do with personal worth. Sometimes timing is wrong. Sometimes priorities differ. Sometimes opportunities simply are not the right fit. Every successful individual has faced rejection countless times. Authors have had books refused by publishers. Entrepreneurs have been turned away by investors. Athletes have been cut from teams. Leaders have been criticized before they were respected. If rejection truly determined potential, many of the world's greatest achievements would never have happened. One reason rejection feels so painful is because people often attach it to their identity. They do not simply think, my idea was rejected. Instead, they think, I was rejected. There is a significant difference between these two beliefs. An idea can be improved, a strategy can be changed, skills can be developed. Identity, however, should never be determined by one person's opinion or one disappointing outcome. Separating who you are from what happened allows you to recover much more quickly. Regret grows differently. It rarely arrives immediately. At first, choosing comfort often feels like relief. You avoid the difficult conversation. You postpone the dream. You decline the opportunity. You convince yourself there will always be another chance. But as time passes, those missed opportunities begin to accumulate. You watch others pursue goals you once imagined for yourself. You wonder how life might have been different if courage had been stronger than fear. There is another important truth about rejection. Every rejection strengthens resilience if you choose to learn from it. The first disappointment feels overwhelming. The second becomes slightly easier. Over time, you realize that rejection is not something to fear, but something to expect. It becomes part of the process rather than evidence that you should stop. This perspective transforms failure from an ending into a lesson. Many of the opportunities that define people's lives begin with uncertainty. Asking someone for an opportunity, sharing an original idea, applying for a challenging position, starting a business, changing careers, or expressing genuine feelings all carry the possibility of rejection. Yet each also carries the possibility of extraordinary growth. Refusing to act guarantees only one outcome: nothing changes. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that something else matters more than fear. Every meaningful achievement requires this decision repeatedly. Waiting until fear disappears often means waiting forever, because uncertainty is part of every worthwhile pursuit. The people who build remarkable lives are not fearless. They simply become more committed to possibility than to comfort. Years from now, very few people remember the temporary embarrassment of rejection. What they remember are the chances they never took because they allowed fear to make the decision for them. They remember the business they never started, the conversation they never had, the opportunity they never accepted, and the life they quietly imagined instead of courageously creating. Every day presents a choice between protecting yourself from temporary disappointment or moving toward a future with fewer unanswered questions. Rejection may close a chapter, but regret keeps unfinished stories alive. The willingness to risk hearing no often becomes the price of discovering what is truly possible. Every courageous action, regardless of the immediate outcome, builds self-respect because it proves that you valued your purpose more than your fear, your growth more than your comfort, and your future more than the opinions that once tried to hold you back. One of the biggest reasons people become trapped by the opinions of others is because they lose sight of their own purpose. When you are uncertain about where you are going, every voice around you begins to sound important. Every criticism feels personal. Every opinion becomes a possible direction. Every piece of advice carries the power to change your decisions because you have not yet committed to a destination that is greater than the noise surrounding you. Purpose acts like a compass. It does not remove distractions, but it keeps you moving toward what truly matters despite them. Imagine a ship sailing across the ocean without a destination. Every wave pushes it in a different direction. Every change in the wind determines where it goes. It has movement, but it has no direction. Many people live exactly this way. They are constantly busy, constantly responding, constantly adjusting their lives according to other people's expectations, yet they never stop to ask whether those expectations align with the life they actually want to build. When you discover your purpose, something remarkable begins to happen. The opinions that once felt overwhelming start losing their influence. Not because people stop talking, because your attention shifts towards something more meaningful. You become less interested in being accepted by everyone and more interested in remaining faithful to the mission that gives your life meaning. Purpose gives criticism the proper perspective. Every meaningful goal attracts disagreement because not everyone shares the same vision. If your purpose is to become an entrepreneur, some people will call you unrealistic. If your purpose is to create art, others may question whether it is practical. If your purpose is to lead, someone will always criticize your decisions. If your purpose is to speak honestly, not everyone will appreciate what you have to say. The existence of criticism does not prove you are moving in the wrong direction. Sometimes it simply proves that you have chosen a path that requires courage. Many people waste enormous amounts of emotional energy trying to convince everyone to understand them. They explain every decision, defend every choice, and seek approval for every step they take. This constant need for explanation often comes from insecurity rather than necessity. The more confident you become in your purpose, the less you feel obligated to justify every decision to people who are not responsible for living your life. Purpose also changes the questions you ask yourself. Instead of asking, will people like this? You begin asking, does this align with my values? Instead of wondering, what will everyone think? You ask, is this the right decision based on what I believe? These questions create clarity because they shift your focus away from external validation and toward internal conviction. This does not mean ignoring wisdom from others. There is tremendous value in learning from mentors, trusted friends, and experienced leaders. The difference is that guidance should support your purpose, not replace it. Advice helps you improve your direction. Approval asks you to surrender your direction. Mature decision making involves listening carefully while remembering that no one else can fully understand your calling, your experiences, or the responsibilities that belong uniquely to you. Another important truth is that purpose gives suffering meaning. The criticism becomes easier to endure when you know why you are willing to endure it. Athletes accept physical exhaustion because they are committed to excellence. Entrepreneurs accept uncertainty because they believe in the vision they are building. Parents willingly sacrifice comfort because they are committed to their children's future. The presence of purpose transforms hardship from meaningless pain into meaningful sacrifice. History repeatedly demonstrates that people who changed the world were often misunderstood before they were appreciated. They faced opposition, criticism, and doubt because they challenged existing ideas. If they had abandoned their purpose every time someone questioned them, progress would never have occurred. They understood that lasting impact requires the willingness to disappoint those who cannot yet see what you see. Purpose also protects you from comparison. When your focus remains on your own mission, you stop measuring your progress against someone else's journey. Every individual has different talents, opportunities, timing, and responsibilities. Comparing your path to another person's success only creates unnecessary distraction. A runner who constantly looks sideways eventually loses speed. A person who constantly watches everyone else eventually loses focus. The remarkable thing about purpose is that it simplifies life. Decisions become clearer because they are measured against your mission rather than against public opinion. Opportunities become easier to evaluate because you know which ones support your direction and which ones merely create distraction. Relationships become healthier because they are built on authenticity instead of performance. Confidence grows because your identity becomes connected to your values rather than to changing applause. There will always be opinions. Some will encourage you. Others will discourage you. Some will understand your vision. Others will question every step you take. You cannot control those voices, but you can choose which voice receives the greatest authority in your life. The stronger your commitment to your purpose becomes, the quieter outside opinions begin to sound. They no longer determine your worth, your identity, or your future because your attention is fixed on something far greater than approval. It is fixed on becoming the person you were created to become and building a life that reflects your deepest convictions instead of other people's expectations. The moment you stop living for other people's approval is the moment you begin experiencing real freedom. Most people believe freedom comes from having more money, more opportunities, or fewer responsibilities. While those things can certainly improve life, the greatest form of freedom is internal. It is the ability to make decisions based on your values instead of your fears. It is waking up each day knowing that your choices are guided by purpose rather than by the opinions of people who are not living your life. For many years, people unknowingly carry invisible chains. These chains are not made of metal. They are made of expectations, comparisons, criticism, and the constant desire to be accepted. Unlike physical chains, these emotional chains are difficult to recognize because they often appear normal. Society encourages people to seek approval, collect validation, and avoid criticism. Eventually, many begin believing that like by everyone is the ultimate measure of success. The problem is that this goal is impossible. Every person has different experiences, beliefs, personalities, and preferences. The qualities one person admires may be the same qualities another person dislikes. Trying to satisfy everyone is like trying to reach a destination that moves farther away every time you get closer. No matter how much effort you invest, someone will always disagree with your choices, misunderstand your intentions, or question your direction. Many people spend years performing for audiences that constantly change. At work, they become one version of themselves. Around friends, they become another. With family, they hide parts of their personality to avoid conflict. Online, they carefully present only the moments they believe others will admire. This constant performance creates exhaustion because maintaining multiple versions of yourself requires tremendous emotional energy. Freedom begins when you decide that authenticity is more valuable than universal approval. Letting go of other people's opinions does not mean becoming selfish or disrespectful. It does not mean refusing to listen to wise advice or ignoring constructive criticism. Real freedom comes from understanding the difference between learning from people and living for people. Advice can improve your decisions. Expectations should never replace your values. Wisdom deserves attention. Fear does not deserve control. One of the greatest obstacles to freedom is comparison. Modern life makes comparison almost unavoidable. Every day people are exposed to carefully selected images of success, happiness, beauty, wealth, and achievement. It becomes easy to believe that everyone else has life figured out while you remain behind. The truth is that comparison almost always involves incomplete information. You compare your everyday reality to someone else's highlight moments. You see their victories, but rarely witness their sacrifices, struggles, disappointments, or failures. Freedom grows when you stop measuring your worth against someone else's journey. Every individual has different gifts, different opportunities, different responsibilities, and different timing. Your purpose is not to become another person. Your purpose is to become the fullest expression of who you were created to be. The moment you accept this, competition begins giving way to contribution. Instead of trying to impress others, you begin focusing on creating value through your own unique strengths. Another important step toward freedom is accepting that criticism will always exist. There is no decision you can make that guarantees universal agreement. If you pursue success, some will accuse you of being too ambitious. If you choose simplicity, others may say you lack ambition. If you speak boldly, some will call you arrogant. If you remain quiet, others will assume you have nothing valuable to say. Since criticism cannot be eliminated, allowing it to control your life serves no meaningful purpose. Freedom also requires forgiveness. Sometimes the strongest opinions you continue carrying are not current criticisms but old voices from your past. A teacher who doubted your ability, a friend who laughed at your dream, a family member who underestimated your potential. Those moments may have lasted only minutes, yet their influence continued for years because you accepted those opinions as permanent truths. Real freedom begins when you recognize that someone else's limited perspective does not define your unlimited potential. Living freely means making peace with imperfection. You will make mistakes. Some decisions will not work as planned. Some people will misunderstand your intentions. Some opportunities will not succeed. None of these experiences remove your worth. They simply remind you that growth is part of being human. The pursuit of perfection keeps people trapped because perfection always remains just beyond reach. Authenticity, however, is available every single day. As you let go of the need for approval, you begin noticing changes that are both subtle and profound. You speak with greater honesty because you no longer fear disagreement as much. You make decisions more confidently because your values become stronger than outside opinions. Your relationships improve because they are built on sincerity instead of performance. Your energy increases because you stop wasting it trying to maintain an image that was never truly yours. Real freedom is not found when the world finally stops judging you. Real freedom begins when other people's opinions no longer determine your identity, your confidence, or your direction. It begins when your purpose becomes louder than criticism, your values become stronger than comparison, and your self-respect becomes more important than temporary approval. That is the moment you stop existing to satisfy everyone else and start living with the courage, authenticity, and peace that have been waiting within you all along.